So without any further ado, I'd like to take a minute to introduce myself. My name is Glenn Collins, and I'm an Executive Vice President here at CDI Computers. My specialty is really mobile computing and deployment of mobile devices in the classroom. And I have been selling technology in education, sad to say, for more than 40 years. So I've had quite a bit of experience in seeing a transition of what we have seen over those years in terms of technology use in the classroom. And I must say that this is probably the most exciting time that I've had to experience the real transition in education using technology. And today's topic is very close to my heart because I do believe that in order to make that transition and to make that change, it's more than just about the technology, but how do we use that technology effectively in the classroom, and how do we equip teachers and educators and district providers to not only use it properly in the classroom, but to measure the outcomes of the utilization of that technology to make sure that we are improving or changing learning outcomes, which really is all of our goals. So I have a pretty cool job. I get to work with manufacturers to design and build our own branded devices specific for the classroom. I also get to work with folks like you guys that are on the phone on a daily basis to talk about the challenges they have in deploying and managing their devices and utilizing them in an effective way in the classroom. So I get to learn not just from folks like Google and Intel and Microsoft, but I get to learn from the customers every day. So these are always learning experiences for me, and I'm sure that at today's webinar at some point, when you guys start sending me questions, we're going to learn a whole bunch of challenges that I was unaware of. So I think what I'll do at this point is, Lisa, can you unmute yourself?
Sure thing.
All right, do you want to jump in and do a quick introduction?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Glenn. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lisa Thumann. I'm the Senior Director for Teaching and Learning for EdTechTeam. We're a California-based company, and I'm going to take some time to tell you a little bit more about what we do and where we're located. But I am talking to you from New Jersey today. I am a former educator. I taught in the K-6 environment, and I have been doing professional development now since 2002.
Perfect. Okay, and Lisa's going to provide quite a bit of the content today as well. So let me just tell you what our agenda looks like. What I thought I'd do is just spend a minute talking about why professional development, why we think it's important. And I did do some research, or have done some research, and I just wanted to share a bit of what I found in terms of outcomes when professional development is utilized effectively in the classroom. Then I want to talk a little bit about CDI for those of you who don't know who we are, maybe spend a minute to give you a quick overview of who we are, kind of what we do, and then talk in terms of our professional development. And obviously, part of our offerings and what we do bring to the table is that partnership with EdTechTeam. And at that point, I'm going to give you a quick overview of what CDI offers, then what we offer through EdTech, and then EdTechTeam, and then I'm going to ask Lisa to jump in and give you more details on their organization. And then for those of you who find some interest in what we have to say, I just want to kind of wrap up by talking about how we can engage. What does the process typically look like to engage? And, I'm sure there'll be lots of questions. So, and then obviously throughout the presentation, feel free to jump in and ask as many questions as you'd like, and we'll do our best to answer those. So, as I said earlier, my near and dear to my heart is professional development, and we've been doing deployments large and small, from 20 devices into a small private school to multi-thousand devices into large districts, and I've been involved in each far-reaching scales of those from both sides, and been very involved in both of those, and in particular in the last 3 or 4 years where we've seen a big transition to one-to-one. And what I always see is the more professional development is involved in the deployment, and the earlier we get engaged with the teachers and the district admin folks, the more productive the outcome of the project is. And typically the more excited people are, the more engaged teachers are, and we start to see a transition in the way they engage students, and at the end of the day we see better learning outcomes, and that's really why we're all doing what we're doing. So I did download some research from Hanover Research, multi-page document, and I just wanted to share kind of the highlights that I saw that I got out of the survey. I'm not sure if I can share it with you or not. I think it's copywritten and I had to pay for it. So if you are interested, I can certainly give you the link and let you know where you can get this information. But some of the highlights I thought that were interesting were really more around the pedagogy and the practices of using technology in the classroom was almost more important and that's kind of, generic in terms of using any type of technology in the classroom and any ecosystem in terms of content in the classroom, but really understanding the pedagogy of engaging students in a different way using the technology was almost more important than understanding the technology. So that's one area that we try to focus on, and we try to get our customers to focus on. And the next thing that really came out of the study, which I think this is all kind of just reinforcing what I've seen when I'm out there in the real world practicing deployment practices, and that is that not only the education is important, but the follow-up of the education, which includes mentoring and coaching, and where I have seen organizations find 1, 2, 5, 10 internal people who provide that coaching and mentoring for others, or sometimes they hire outside organizations to do that for them. I do remember, speaking of New Jersey, I was in a large organization in New Jersey where a 73-year-old teacher had taken on the role of a coach and mentor and got up and talked about with great passion on how technology and education had reinvigorated her to be re-engaged with students, etc. It was quite actually inspiring for anybody who's in the education space, if you will. And then just from an organization standpoint, any learning-centric pedagogy experience really does have an impact at the end of the day on the way that technology is used in the classroom. And just a couple more points on that is that really it is, if you're trying to make a significant long-term change in your school's culture and environment, it is really about policies, practices, culture, and funding. And the one thing that I always see is there seems to be, it's an afterthought often on funding for professional development. So when we are engaged early with customers in terms of a upcoming project, maybe next year, etc., we always try to make sure they set aside not only funding, but time, teachers' time, and scheduling for professional development and thinking about how you're going to deliver it and what the learning outcomes are and what it is we need to provide for you. And really, it's successful PD programs that make the use of the technologies that teachers will be using. So in other words, it is real live, hands-on type learning as opposed to a lecture kind of like we're doing today. So we really encourage that it is that with the teachers that we do as much as we can on site. They seem to enjoy that better as well. So I only present that to you because I thought it was kind of the highlights of the research. I think probably if you've joined us today, you have a pretty good idea and understanding of the importance of professional development. So I'm just going to spend 2 seconds giving you a commercial on CDI. For those of you who are unfamiliar with us, we're one of North America's leading providers of technology-based solutions to the education market. We've been in business since '81. We've done business with over 10,000 schools. We have about 4,500 active customers that we work with on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And our mission really as an organization is to help educators improve learning outcomes through the utilization of cost-effective technology. We have a long history of working in the education space. It kind of found us. Our genesis is one of refurbished technology, and that value proposition of refurbished technology with a great warranty really resonated in the education space. And so starting in the early 90s, we really gravitated toward education primarily because they gravitated toward us. Since then, we've opened up to new products, and we have our own branded products. And we really are now a full service organization providing a full suite of desktop, notebook, Chromebook solutions, as well as networking server solutions. And then we try to provide all the services around those technologies to provide customers with a successful pain-free deployment. We know that in the education space that resources are very thin in all areas, from in IT and professional development, etc. So we try our best to design all of our offerings around that resource strain and providing the best value we can. I haven't found a school yet that has too much money to spend on this stuff. We see professional development as a key offering to ensure our customers do get the most out of their technology. I got interviewed recently by somebody at one of the magazines out of New York that talked about 21st century learning and asked me what I thought was holding us back or not getting us there as quickly as we can. And the first thing I could think of was the lack of investment in professional development. And I don't think it's by design. I just think that everybody's so focused on the technology that we kind of forget that having a car is great, but if you don't know how to drive it, it doesn't really do you much good. So I'm going to spend just a minute or two talking about a broad overview of our offerings, and then the majority of the time I'm going to give to Lisa to talk about who's much more knowledgeable than me in terms of professional development, since she not only was a receiver of professional development for years, but is instrumental in the development, design, delivery of professional development to teachers today. So quickly though, we have two kind of offerings at CDI. We have a offering that typically is focused on the IT folks in terms of helping them deploy the technology effectively, set up Chrome management, set up the new Intune, if you will, from Microsoft, deploying and utilizing Chrome management for the rights to set up all the users properly, to set up all the devices properly, the same in a Windows environment. Most of the training that professional development we do in that case can be online, because we can actually share a screen and walk the people through the exercise as they go through the learning process. And the audience tends to be smaller, so the online learning tends to be quite effective. And some of the subjects we have a Kickstart program for anybody transitioning from Windows or Apple to Chrome that walks you through that whole process, whether you want to synchronize your Active Directory environment with your new Chrome environment, how to set up users, best practices, etc. And that's relatively inexpensive. It starts at $2.99 and just walks you through the whole process. Some of the things we can do from a technology IT perspective is work with them from a Google Classroom standpoint to show them how to best set that up and the best practices around that. And then we also have a couple of products that we offer that allow an enhanced version, if you will, of Chrome management in terms of features that can be added to Chrome management with a product like GoGuardian or Impero, which allow you to do a lot more granular work in terms of security and setup, etc., in the Google space. So those are our internal online courses. And then, as Lisa will talk about shortly, we also have partnered with EdTechTeam for really teacher-based, teacher-focused, district admin-focused, hands-on, instructor-led training where they are on-site, etc. And this price range is about $4,000 a day, and that's for up to 25 participants. Now, as Lisa will tell you, they often do larger groups than that, but the price changes because there needs to be more than one facilitator to be effective when the group gets larger. The neat part about what she's going to describe is that we can customize the curriculum specific to your desired learning outcomes. So the one nice thing about this is, although they've got well over 200 kind of ready to go curriculum courses, what we have typically found is when we engage with a customer, they want bits and pieces of each of those, or some of those, a subset of those. So as Lisa will describe, we work with the customer to figure out what the learning outcomes and desires are, what the budget is, how much time they have set aside for this kind of work. And then we try to build the best curriculum that'll get them as close to their goals as we can at the right price. So, and I'll let Lisa describe that a little bit in more detail. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn this over to Lisa. Let me just find her here. Hang on for a second. And I'm going to make her the host. You are the host.
Great. Yep, I think I can do that now. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Thanks, Glenn. I'm going to talk to you about EdTechTeam and what we offer, but my focus is going to be on what Glenn was just talking about, that customized professional development. And Glenn, I have to tell you, I wrote down your example of buying the car and what good is it if you don't drive it. And I love that because it's so true. So many districts dedicate funding towards buying the technology, the hardware, and then there's no money in reserves for professional development on how to best use those devices, that type of technology, and even that type of pedagogy, integrating digital tools with their students. So, you know, just to let you know that EdTechTeam is founded out of Irvine, California. Everybody on the team is a former educator. And we are really excited to partner with CDI, especially since we are a global company. So we have 34 full-time employees, and we work with 250 contractors around the world. Glenn's been working close with me, our US company, and also my colleague Michelle Armstrong, who runs EdTechTeam Canada. And then we have subsidiaries also in Australia, Mexico, and the UK. We have done work in 48 of the US states, 9 Canadian provinces, and I don't need to read what's on the screen for you. You can see that we have been all over the globe, which gives a lot of us a very unique perspective because we see how schools are run and how classrooms are managed in different parts of the world. We produced in 2016 experiences in 10 languages. So if you need professional development in Spanish, in French, or obviously many other languages, we can make that happen for you. And we saw a lot of educators face-to-face last year, and it's on target to be considerably more than 88,000 in 2017. So the company was founded based around originally Google Apps. And we started running Google Apps Summits, which some of you may have been to in the past. So we started running these summits back in 2011. And as you see, just out of our 34 staff members, the majority of us are Google certified innovators and Google certified trainers. So when we come out to your district to do any professional development related to Google Apps, or G Suite as it's known as now, we're going to send you an innovator or a trainer. We really value our partnership with the Google for Education team. We are their largest professional development partner, doing 33% of the professional development that all 12 partners do. We also support the Future Ready Schools initiative and value our partnership with CDI. So I wanted to just share some feedback. Every time that we do a workshop on behalf of CDI, at the end of the workshop or the days of professional development, we send out an evaluation, and we always share this evaluation data with the folks at CDI like Glenn and also our host school. And you'll see, you know, that our consultants and our core team members are rated very highly, and we really work with you. We talk with you before the workshop, of course, and make sure that we're meeting the needs of everybody in the room and aligning the professional development with the initiatives and mission of your school district. We also, in addition to doing customized professional development, we have a catalog of workshops. You see the URL there, catalog.edtechteam.com, where we have just over 180 workshops listed. And sometimes that's just a stepping stone for a district to kind of look through and see, well, what could I do with my math teachers? What could I do with regards to STEM, with 3D printing, with coding and computer programming? Also, you know, we work with a lot of districts on their smart boards and their Promethean boards with regards to Microsoft, Apple, We are an Apple professional development provider. We help your district work towards any of those certifications with those resellers. And of course, something that's big right now is the SAMR continuum and helping teachers and administrators move up the SAMR continuum away from just copying what we've done in the past and really redefining what we do with students using technology. We do offer a path to certification for Google certifications, and you can find, we have a tour going around the United States. You can find that tour at the URL listed below. That will take you through certification level 1, level 2, and then help you put together your application to become a Google certified trainer, which is a pretty elite status. And I'll let you all know, in case you didn't know already, that Google changed their mission at the beginning of January. And the mission now is to have a Google certified trainer in every school, in every district in the world. So they're really looking to increase this cadre of currently about 3,000 trainers in the world. We also offer boot camps. Now, we have ticketed boot camps, but what we're working on with CBI is to bring a boot camp to your district. So to identify 25 to 30 educators in the district that want to obtain level 1, level 2, or the certified trainer. And one of my favorite boot camps is our Google for Clerical and Classified. And we do something similar for Microsoft as well. Sometimes those clerical classified folks in our district, they don't really receive PD. And when they do, it's really geared more towards an educator. So we've designed a one-day curriculum that just wows these folks, and they walk away with just, a great toolbox of ways that they can use these applications within their roles. And then, of course, in order to really make change in your district, you have to work with the administrators, and they need to know what to look for in the classroom when they're doing their observations. They need to be modeling digital tools and how to integrate them. We also, through CDI, offer edtechteam.com/online, and we have these just-in-time courses. Sometimes there isn't face-to-face time in a school district to do professional development. So we have these 15-hour just-in-time courses, and there's just a sampling of them listed there. Really great when a teacher is willing to work on their own time, in their pajamas, having a cup of coffee, right, on a Saturday afternoon or something like that. These courses are moderated, but they're not synchronous, meaning that you can work on this course when it's convenient for you. And there are some assignments that you need to submit along the way. And then also with edtechteam.com online, we also have our teacher leader certificate. And you'll see at the bottom of the screen that our next cohort is starting September 11th. Now, this is a 12-week course, and it's pretty intense, and it is synchronous. So you will be working with your group, your cohort, on all of these topics, including learning spaces, digital learning, project-based learning, leadership, social media, pretty much everything that you can think of to be a successful teacher in the digital age. And finally, I just want to mention with regards to EdTechTeam that we give a portion of our profit back to students in the form of 2 different grants. And you can find more information at edtechteam.com/grant. The first is we do a student device grant. We've been doing this for many years. We do it once a quarter. We give a class set of Chromebooks away to a specific teacher, and there's an application process. We just finished awarding a class set of 30 Chromebooks to a district in Canada. And then occasionally, we also provide a student summit for 100 students, so basically a conference for the students, and we award that as part of our grant program as well. So I want to invite Glenn to come back and we can take some questions if you'd like.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Am I sharing my screen now?
Sure.
No, the question was, am I?
Oh, not yet.
All right, hang on for 1 sec.
There you go.
There we go. All right. So, yeah, we haven't got a whole bunch of questions, but by all means, please let us know if you have any questions. Some of the things that we, Lisa and I are talking about, some of the exciting things are, workshops around robotics and utilizing robotics, workshops around English as a second language. Maybe you could touch on that a little bit, Lisa?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for reminding me, Glenn. EdTechTeam does a monthly webinar that I moderate. And our webinar for September is actually digital tools for the ELL students. These are typically on Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern, since I'm in Eastern time. And you can find them if you go to YouTube and you search EdTechTeam. There's a whole playlist there with the last 6 months worth of webinars. So now let's go back to face-to-face professional development. One of the important things that Glenn and his team does is, meets with the leadership in your district to talk about, what is the plan for the devices that you are distributing throughout your school and to students. Are you going one-to-one? Are you working off of carts? Do you have a set of 5 Chromebooks per classroom? And how you can best utilize those students. And thinking about every student is a unique learner, including our ELL students, our classified students, and every student and every adult is a unique learner. How can we best help you meet the needs of those learners? And sometimes that's through a pre-survey, finding out what your teachers know, because why work on what they already know? Let's find out what they don't know and help them ramp things up. And, that really brings us back to the SAMR model. And if you're not familiar with the SAMR model, the S in SAMR stands for substitution. And it's the concept that sometimes the Chromebook is just another way of doing what we do with paper and pencil. And that what we need to do is get all the way up to the R in SAMR, which is redefinition. How can we use the technology that our districts are providing to really redefine how we're teaching students, how students are learning, and how they view the world?
I have a couple questions, Lisa. One was asking about pricing, and we fairly straightforward. Just from our perspective, the on-site training is $4,000 a day US, up to 25, and then we can get you pricing depending on the size of the audience you're looking for and the subjects you're looking for. There was there was a couple things, and then our online training is relatively inexpensive. It ranges from $299 to $499 depending on the course. There was a couple of other things, Lisa, that you introduced that you might want to talk about the pricing on that.
Yeah, and I love Erin's question. She said, how can we make the most out of Chromebooks in the classroom by enabling teachers through PD? And if you don't mind, Glenn, I'd like to
by all means.
Question. Yeah. So, Erin, it takes me back to Glenn's example of the car. It's just so spot on. So we purchase these devices and we put them in the classroom with the teacher. But the teacher's teaching 8 different subjects, right? And is responsible for so much. So I think that it's very important to work with educators and give them the support that they need. Number one, to know how to use the technology, but more important than that, the professional development that helps them with the pedagogy. And, really focusing for that teacher or those teachers. That teacher is a 7th grade algebra teacher? How is that teacher going to use the Chromebook and the suite of applications that we have and all of the free resources, those web apps that are available to us to improve teaching and learning in the algebra classroom? Because that teacher and those students have much different needs than a second grade teacher who is looking to have students publish for authentic audiences using Google Docs or Google Sites, so, or even Microsoft. So it's very important to look at that, what those teachers need to reach their students, because the students that we're working with today are very different than the students I worked with when I first started teaching. You know, these students are coming into kindergarten and first grade, you know, already, you know, being able to use an iPad or an iPhone. It's just, you know, a different audience than most of us are used to. And then Allison asked the question, what is your take on online textbooks versus hard copies? For example, yeah, the Discovery Education textbooks go with Google Classroom. Not everybody can see the question, but Allison mentioned that they have Chromebooks for each student. Allison, I am a big believer in universal design for learning, and that every student is a unique learner. And I think those digital textbooks work really well for some of our students, but that other students really benefit not from highlighting using a digital highlighter, but for actually, you know, writing on a Post-it note and putting it in that actual textbook, that hard copy, right? Using a highlighter marker and being able to highlight it. So I think it's most beneficial when schools have both offerings for their students, because, you know, when we allow our students voice and choice, they're going to be much more successful. Glenn, you asked me to talk a little, you're welcome, Allison. You asked me to talk a little bit more about some of the other programs that we're offering.
Yeah, so there was a couple of other questions came in on the questions one. One was, could you elaborate on the specific STEM programs you provide? And then the next question was, if a district chooses to host a boot camp, what if some of the teachers already have level 1 and level 2 certifications?
Well, first of all, just to put it out there, we wouldn't want anyone to come to a level 2 boot camp until they've already passed the level 1 exam. And the reason is that you don't know what you don't know. I mean, let's think about that. We use G Suite or Office 365 or Microsoft Word. We use it, you know, every day in our lives, but we use the portions of those programs that we need. So we don't know what about those programs we don't know. And that's why it's so important to pass the level 1 exam before you come to a level 2 boot camp.
Yeah, when I read the question, I think Jessica, and you could confirm if you want, but basically I think Jessica is asking, what if the teachers already have these certifications? Is there content for a boot camp that would benefit those folks? Well,
honestly, the boot camp is a prescribed curriculum that prepares you to take and pass these exams. So if some of those teachers in that district have already passed the exam, I honestly don't see a reason for them to attend, other than they might learn something that they didn't already know.
Because or reinforce some of the stuff they weren't so sure about.
Especially the level 2 camp.
I guess the other question is, I'm guessing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we could create a boot camp-like environment for STEM or for math or for specific subject matter that would be outside of a certification process, if you will.
Absolutely, and you know, we don't really call them a boot camp, but we do actually have a boot camp designed all about drones and how to use drones in the classroom. We have one about programming and coding. And of course, when it comes to coding, we find out what equipment you already have, you know, what kind of bots and everything what hardware you already have, and come in and teach about the products that you've already purchased. Because there's nothing more frustrating than an educator going to a workshop and learning about something that they don't have the funding to purchase.
Yeah, it has to be relevant to obviously what they're doing in the classroom, so that makes sense. And so the only question that's outstanding is really the STEM program. Can you talk a little bit about specific programs you have that are associated with STEM?
Yes, so absolutely. And actually, my friend and colleague, Chris Kraft, he is one of our core team members, and he lives in South Carolina. He is one of our STEM experts, along with Kern Kelly out of Maine. And one of the things that Chris Kraft has done is he actually started the hand challenge. And if you know anything about 3D printing, if you followed any of that, the hand challenge is for schools and individuals to print these 3D prosthetic hands. And the hands have actually been fitted for folks that need them. There's the program that you can download for free and use on your 3D printer. So it's the idea of, and that's just one part of STEM with 3D printing, but it's the idea of how do we take children and prepare them for careers with regards to science and math. And, near and dear to my heart are girls, because I have 2 high schoolers at home. So we work with a lot of districts that want to really get the middle school grade girls involved more in science and technology through programming, through 3D printing, and through science in general. So we have several consultants that we work with that specialize in technology integration specifically for math and for science. And it's, I really get blown away. Math is not my area of expertise. So I get blown away when I look at what educators are doing in their math classrooms using technology, because we spent the first, 5 or 6 years of G Suite for Education, when it was released back in late 2006. We spent the first, 5 or 6 years hearing, I'm a math teacher, I can't use this in my classroom. And now there's all these sorts of add-ons that we can install, and applets that we can use to use technology for math.
So there's one other question here about digital badging.
Oh yeah, I was just going to type Aaron an answer. Yeah, so Aaron's asking about training on digital badging, and that's a really interesting question, because a lot of districts are moving forward with digital badging in 2 ways. Some districts are moving forward with digital badging for students as a way for students to collect badges, which we all know what they are. We all know what badges are, that we sewed on our jackets and things like that. And now we receive digital badges when we shop, when we take a course, when we've gone to a restaurant so many times and checked in. And districts are giving their students digital badges to put on their digital portfolios. And also, many districts are giving digital badges for professional development. There's an educator in Los Angeles Unified who set up, she is the director for professional development for the district, LA Unified, and she set up a digital badging program for teachers with regards to professional development. And it's actually, she got funding that the more professional development the teachers did, it was specifically for classroom teachers and special area teachers, the more professional development they did, and they had to submit artifacts to prove their learning. They earned gift cards to things like Starbucks and Panera and Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble. She got subsidized from the district. But this digital badging, empowers a lot of people. You'll see badges in email signatures, especially if you're going for Microsoft and Google certifications. As soon as you earn that badge, you put that up on your Twitter profile and in your LinkedIn profile and your email signature. So absolutely, we have several people that are specialists in the area, Aaron.
Great, good. Well, thanks, Lisa. Continue to send us questions. By the way, if you think of stuff after the session, we're more than happy to get back to you, and I'll give you an email address where you can send questions, and between Lisa and myself, we'll either provide the answer or get the answer for you. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about, if you're interested, what you do at this point. And really what CDI can help you do through your sales rep. And if you're not sure who your sales rep is, I will give you a email address in a second that you can send anything to. And again, you will be getting a copy of this presentation or the recording thereof shortly. So if you work with your CDI rep, who hopefully sent you an invitation for this session today, we can help you, start planning now for Christmas time, for end of year. I mean, typically these things in the summertime, they kind of happen quickly, but lots of times we need to plan them out in advance. So we can help you with those, whether we call it boot camps or organization and regional events. If you're a smaller district and you want to share some of the costs of a level 1 or level 2 certification boot camp, or a STEM boot camp, or whatever series of products around a subject, we can help you organize that as well. If you're transitioning to Chrome, again, we have professional development to help you through that whole process. The digital badging, things like that, where you're looking for specific applications, then we can help you there. And then transitioning to a one-to-one, and how to best utilize things like Google Classroom differently than you might if you were sharing devices. We talked about STEM programs and much more. So just before I say goodbye, there was a couple more questions. Lisa, you want to jump in on those? They were in the chat.
Oh, sure. Yes, the question was from Joey. And for schools with numerous campuses where geographically the staff is quite displaced, could CDI provide PD training remotely over something similar to a webinar? And my response, I'll share with everyone, is that I always recommend that face-to-face is best. But when there's a commitment from the district and the folks that are attending the webinar, and it's the right content to be delivered remotely, and you have a quality presenter that you would get, through CDI and EdTechTeam, it can work. I recommend, not just one webinar. I recommend doing a series of webinars spaced appropriate every 4 to 6 weeks with follow-up and assignments in between. Because there's nothing more, it goes back to the car, right? If you're going to sit and you're going to attend a webinar, you want to use the knowledge that you received. So by providing that 4-week space in between, maybe a set of 6 webinars per district, with assignments in between, then that allows more interactivity and for the educators participating to come back with questions and successes and failures to share.
Yeah, and I would echo that exactly. Even the shorter versions that we do with the IT folks to help them set up Chrome management, for example, etc., are typically done in multiple short sessions where there is, go away and do this, this, and this. We'll meet again in a week and talk about the next step. So it is that, from a learning perspective, that's certainly the most effective way to do it. So if that's all the questions we have, ladies and gentlemen, we very much appreciate your time today. We don't take it for granted. We hope you got value out of today's session. You can reach out for quotes or any information to sales@cdicomputers.com. Any questions about today's webinar will come to me, and we'll get them answered accordingly. There's a toll-free number you could call. You can ask for myself or your sales rep if you want. If you tell them your district, they'll find out who looks after you. And you can always look at the cdicomputers.com/education website for more information. Lisa is very kind to make herself available to us, not only today, but to individual organizations as needs arise. So if you are planning on doing something, by all means, reach out to us. We'll be happy to do a one-on-one and figure out what's the appropriate solution for you. So on behalf of CDI and the EdTech team, thanks for your time today, folks. I hope you enjoyed this.